Hi, I'm Kat and today I have a true crime case for you. I'll also be doing my makeup at the same time, and as requested by Chris Rice, I will also be translating something from Romanian into English. Crimă adevărată. Crimă adevărată. Crimă adevărată. Or you can also say crimă reală. Crimă reală. Crimă adevărată. Crimă adevărată. Crimă reală. Well done, guys, you just said true crime, which really does make sense. I don't know why I didn't think of this, of translating this like the first introduction into the Romanian language, but thank you so much, Chris Rice, for the request. The case that we are talking about today is sadly barely even mentioned anywhere, and we are now 23 years later and his family is still looking for Philip and hoping that they can be reunited. Is such a sad missing persons case, and one which in my opinion never received enough attention from any sort of outlet, be it the police, social media, online platforms, or even the press. Today we are talking about the heartbreaking story of Phillip Harris, and it's such a sad story. I mean, just to give you an idea, only 2 or 3 photos of Philip even exist. Do you guys remember the Y2K, the Millennium bug? I'm just giving you a bit of learning to, I don't know, set the scene if you will. The Y2K bug was a computer flaw that may have caused problems when dealing with dates beyond December 31st, 1999. When computer programs were being written during the 1960s through the 1980s, computer engineers used a 2-digit code for the year. The 19 was left out. Instead of a date reading 1970, it read 70. Engineers shortened the date because data storage in computers was expensive and also took up a lot of space. As the year 2000 approached, computer programmers realized that computers might not interpret 00 as 2000 but as 1900. Activities that were programmed on a daily or yearly basis would be damaged or flawed. As December 31st, 1999 turned into January the 1st, 2000, computers might interpret December 31st, 1999 turning into January the 1st, 1900. Banks faced real problems. Centers of technology such as power plants were also threatened by the Y2K bug. Transportation also depends on the correct time and date. Airlines in particular were put at risk as computers with records of all scheduled flights would be threatened. After all, there were very few airline flights in the 1900s, right? Y2K was both a software and hardware problem. Australia recalled almost its entire embassy staff from Russia prior to January the 1st, 2000 over fears of what might happen if communications or transportation networks broke down. But nothing happened. No plane crashes, no financial crashes. For most people, life just carried on as normal. It was in the summer of July 28, 1999 in the UK, with the Millennium countdown underway, that 15-year-old Phillip Harris was last seen alive. He was the boy who vanished. Philip, along with his older sister Claire, 17 years old at the time, lived with another younger brother, their stepmom and her own mother. The stepmother was once married with Philip's younger brother's father, but the father allegedly abandoned them when they were young and he never returned. So the stepmom was actually raising the children alongside her own mother. They often moved between houses over the years in Manchester, Northfield, Alum Rock, and then finally to St. Paul's Road, Smaddock. I have tried to kind of, make this as clear as possible, but at times I feel like I keep jumping the timeline back and forth, and I'm really hoping that I'm not getting you confused. I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. And I have glitter all over my face from the previous makeup that I was wearing in another video. Wonderful. According to Claire, Philip's older sister, their home life was chaotic, very dysfunctional, terrifying and dangerous. The place they lived in was a mess. She even remembers sticking to the carpets when they walked in the house. The children were made to clean the floors with toothbrushes, and they were even made to beat each other up. They were all petrified and they had to do what they were told. Both Philip's stepmom and step-grandmother were cruel and abusive. The kids would often be hit and verbally tormented by both women. Before vanishing, Philip was showing signs of being really affected by this ongoing abuse. A particular incident that Claire remembers was when Philip was screaming so badly that he couldn't be controlled. He just went into the garden screaming in such a way that Claire never heard anyone scream as he did, and this was really scary for Claire. He even had to be held and pinned down so he could relax. During their childhood, social services were sometimes involved, but the children were never permanently taken into care, even though by that point Claire and Philip were constant runaways. They ran away from the abuse so many times, but each time they would just be returned to the stepmother. Philip had been a vulnerable teenager who was looking for constant attention. And according to Claire, one person really showered Philip with the attention that he was longing for. A transgender nurse who was living at the family's home at the time in St. Paul's Road allegedly began an illegal relationship with Philip, who was underage at that point. The nurse was in her 30s at the time and she was in the process of becoming a woman. When the family moved to Smedek, the nurse moved with them and then she moved into the same house. Claire said that she thinks Philip really liked the idea of the relationship with the nurse because he was getting the love and the attention that he was craving, but really Philip was young. He didn't really understand. He was just a child. I think it's safe to assume that he was being groomed by this nurse. This nurse was a really big person, really strongly built, but also a violent person, and she did physically attack Claire before, hitting her a few times. At some point before Philip went missing, the nurse gave him a gold necklace. It was Claire's youngest brother who said that Philip had a gold chain because the nurse bought it for him. Before his disappearance, Philip ended up in foster care. We will learn later on in the video how that happened. His other siblings, including Claire, remained in the home on St. Paul's Road. On July 28, 1999, Philip left his temporary foster home in St. Eleanor's Close, West Bromwich at 9:30 a.m. He was wearing navy tracksuit bottoms with a white stripe, an orange long-sleeved shirt and a green combat-style jacket. At 1 p.m., he called the foster home to say that he planned to stay overnight with a friend in Northfield. Then, nothing more was seen of Philip. On Friday, 30th of July 1999, a Ford Sierra parked outside the St. Paul's home was broken into and a few items were stolen and all 4 tires were slashed, something which a car thief wouldn't really be doing. And this car belonged to the nurse. The crime was reported to police 2 days later, on Monday, August the 2nd, 1999. When her red car got the windows smashed and the tires slashed, the police were wondering if maybe it was Philip who actually went back and did that. A few appeals were issued by police in the year that Philip vanished, in 1999, but there were no further press releases for 20 years, although the police insists Philip's case was subject to annual internal reviews. Claire, Philip's sister, feels that being classed as a runaway may have led to a lack of initial police urgency in Philip's disappearance. But that claim is of course denied by West Midlands Police. The police didn't do enough, according to Claire, as Philip was put down as a child with problems and went to a special school, when in fact there was really nothing wrong with Philip. However, police recently learned that Philip was spotted in Great Arthur Street, a few streets away from the St. Paul's Road property where he had lived with his siblings and step-relatives. This sighting was either on the day that he went missing or in the weeks afterwards. In January 2020, police began re-examining Philip's disappearance, which led to a forensics dig at the former family home in St. Paul's Road in April 2020. The police have also been in contact with the parents of the nurse, remember the 30-year-old nurse who was transitioning, during this up-to-date investigation, and they were told that the nurse has since passed away. Do you guys remember the gold chain or the gold necklace that I mentioned previously in the video that the nurse gave Philip a while before he vanished? Well, according to Claire, his sister, a gold chain was found in the St. Paul's Road garden a few years ago by the children of a family who moved in the property after Philip's siblings, the stepmom and her mother, had moved out. This piece of jewelry may have been one of the reasons why police carried out the extensive dig at St. Paul's Road, but sadly nothing was found. Claire also claims that her younger brother remembers the garden being renovated with slabs for no reason at all. Claire thinks that maybe when the police heard that, they decided they needed to search that garden. But the lengthy search resulted in no new evidence. Police did also later put out a new photo image of what Philip could look like now and appealed for fresh information. The new investigation has been led by Detective Sergeant Andy Padmore. He confirmed that the nurse was a person of interest. He said, quote, "But it is one of many and I haven't enough evidence as it stands at this moment to point the finger at the nurse or anyone else. That's one of the difficulties with a missing person, because we don't absolutely convincingly know what's happened to this child." But he added, "I'm satisfied that a thorough and diligent investigation has been done which has not come back with any proof of the life of Philip." End of quote. The car attack outside of St. Paul's Road address was of particular interest to officers, with the detective saying that it is a line of inquiry that they have. There is a recorded criminal offense of damage to a vehicle relating to the address, and the individual who committed the damage was never identified but still remains a person of interest to the detective. The damage happened over the days that Philip went missing, and the owner of that car was living at the St. Paul's Road house at the time of Philip's disappearance. So like I said, the nurse passed away since, so obviously that's now another dead end. The chain was not found, so that's another dead end. However, the case remains open. D.S. Padmore said that the unresolved mystery left him with a sense of sadness. A sadness that there is a child here that we don't know what's happened to and has missed significant things in his family's life. And some sadness on behalf of the family that miss him and don't know what's happened to him. To solve this case and provide some closure would be of enormous benefit to those concerned. The investigation, which began in 2020, has been wide-ranging and thorough, covering all aspects of the case. We remain committed to understanding the circumstances of what has happened to Philip, while supporting his sister and all those affected by the case. For Claire, the disappearance of her brother is a scar that she carries. She says police have apologized for any early failings, but she now feels that there's no point in saying sorry since nothing was done at the time. She also says, quote, "We were the kids nobody cared about because we never had a real family and no money. We looked like little tramps brought up in a hole, excuse my language. We were non-existent to anybody. I'd love to see the social workers from the past, to be honest, because we were let down by the system. They didn't care. They knew what we lived in and they left us there." End of quote. The police investigation is with Locate their missing people's team, but they believe that there has been no proof of life since Philip went missing. So they think that he's sadly not alive anymore. Despite the alleged physical and mental abuse endured during childhood, Claire reconnected with her stepmom before she died. And now comes the kicker. I think this is the worst bit of this whole case, the most heartbreaking one. You remember when Claire was told by her stepmother that Philip had just ran away from home at the time? Well, As it turns out, Claire only later found out that her stepmom lied to her about Philip's disappearance. Her stepmom had claimed all those years ago that Philip ran away to London. In fact, Philip was secretly moved out to a new foster home in West Brom away from his siblings, who were later told that he had vanished. Claire took care of her stepmom when she became ill, and after she passed away, she even paid for her funeral. And then Claire found out all of the lies. Her stepmom signed Philip over to social services, and that's how he ended up in another home in St. Eleanor's Close, in the foster home that he vanished from. Remember when he said that he's going to his friend's house? Claire and her siblings were made to believe that Philip never returned, that he just ran off. Her own last memory of her brother was months before he actually vanished, but even that is clouded in confusion and mystery. Quote, I remember him being there, St. Paul's Road, and they asked him to go to the shop or something like that, and he never returned. But that's not the case. So I don't know what happened, how they managed to sign him over, how he went to the foster family. I'm told that they took him to social services to sign him back over and said they couldn't cope with him. But I just don't know. I have spent years posting missing appeals for Philip on social media. I want him to know he's loved and missed. I want to see him again. End of quote. If you have any information on the disappearance of Phillip Harris, please contact West Midlands Police on 101 quoting reference PID 33326. Information can also be given via live chat on the police website at westmidlands.police.uk or by contacting Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111 quoting log 1825 of 18/3. It's so sad, guys. Can you just imagine Claire growing up thinking that Philip just ran away, only to find out all this time later that in fact he was handed over to social services? I can't even think of what the children were thinking at the time, knowing that Philip just left. Maybe they were even upset that he left them behind in all that abuse and he only helped himself escape. And Claire to this day is still looking for her brother, for Philip, hoping that one day she will be reunited with him. It's such a heartbreaking case, and almost zero has been done for Philip. We all know that the first 48 hours of a missing person are the most important and crucial ones, but Philip didn't receive the consideration and attention he should have. It could very well be that the police saw him as just a runaway, yet again running away from home, and they didn't take advantage of those precious first few days after his disappearance. Personally, I don't agree with the police. I don't think that he passed away, but this is just my opinion. If he did run away, I don't think that he wants to be found. I think that he just kind of like wanted to rebuild his life, have his privacy and not being known to anyone, just live his life without his past tormenting him. Maybe he doesn't even know that Claire is looking for him. We also don't know what he was told by his stepmom about his siblings, so maybe he grew up with the idea that they don't want anything to do with him, so maybe this is why he's not reaching out. I don't know. It's either that I am being hopeful that he's alive and doesn't want to be found, or foul play is really involved, and if it is, I suspect that the nurse had something to do with it, in my opinion again. And I'm really hoping, lastly, I'm really hoping that he is alive, and I'm really hoping that Claire will be able to see her brother again. Thank you so much everyone for watching today's video. Please let me know what do you think in the comment section down below. Also, if you are interested in any of the products I used for today's makeup, everything is linked in the description under this video. For now, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!